George Washington, America's first president, with a controversial legacy to boot, a founding father, a war hero, and an avid dog breeder. But, also on the flip side, he was a slave owner, war instigator, and a puppy. Wait.
What?
Oh sh**.
Welcome to this YouTube channel. I'd like to call Top Untaughts, where we will explore facts, small and big, that are rarely talked about and were, obviously left out of our history books for reasons that will be explored further in this channel. So, remember that school report you were assigned to in elementary school? The one that would ask you to write about which historical figure you would invite to dinner? Well, let's see if those who picked George Washington found what I found. Oh, and look, a scan of an actual invitation from the man himself. Thanks, Library of Congress. You definitely will not regret allowing people like me checking out your treasure trove. Dog, man's best friend, loyal, affable, compassionate. Our adoration for our furry companions knows no limit. Blessing our homes with their presence has now become a beloved American tradition. One could even call the act patriotic. Most presidents had at least one dog. The last president not to have a dog was William McKinley. Yeah, that one. The one who succumbed to gangrene after a failed assassination attempt and then died. But he did have kittens, roosters, and a parrot named Washington Post, who could whistle Yankee Doodle. Should have maybe gotten a dog. Trump is the first president since James K. Polk to not have a presidential pet while in office. GW was not only an avid dog man, he loved all animals. He had an Andalusian donkey, which was a gift from King Charles III of Spain, who he named Royal Gift. His wartime mounts were named Nelson and Blueskin, and he had stallions with names like Samson, Steady, Leonidas, Traveler, and Magnolia.
Oh sh**.
And then there were the hounds: Drunkard, Taster, Tippler, and Tipsy. He also had American foxhounds that were named Sendwell, Vulcan, and oh good God, Sweetlips. He named her Sweetlips. They say that she probably was given that name because of the sounds she made while hunting, which GW liked. Or he just enjoyed having someone to catcall. But how did Sweetlips come to be? How did Washington create the quote perfect foxhound? His early breeding experiments had yielded his Virginia hounds. These were the ancestors of today's black and tan hounds. But he wanted more. He wanted to create the ultimate dog. One excelling in agility, intelligence, and blessed with an excellent tracking nose. During the Revolutionary War, GW had struck up a close relationship with the French general Marie-Joseph Paul-Yves Roch-Gilbert du Motier, Marquis de Lafayette, who, like Washington, had an affinity for dogs. And through Lafayette, GW learned of the French staghound. They were described as large, powerful, and fast, with barks that sounded like, quote, the bells of Moscow. And several years later, Lafayette sent his friend 7 of his dogs. On May 13, 1785, Lafayette wrote to Washington that, quote, French hounds are not now very easily got, because the king makes use of English dogs as being more swift than those of Normand. I however have got 7 from a Normand gentleman, to which Washington wrote back, the hounds, which he was so obliging as to send me, arrived safe, and are of promising appearance. So, French staghound, plus GW's Virginia hounds, created the American foxhound, and thus, he is still known as the father of the American foxhound. Library of Congress, what are you doing here? This is GW's diary. And here is GW talking more about Lafayette's gift of French hounds. One of the hound bitches which was sent to me from France brought forth 15 puppies this day, 7 of which, the rest being as many as I thought she could rear, I left them at my local shelter. Something's off. Well, this channel is about untaught history. I'm only relaying what I found. That doesn't say local shelter at all. The rest being as many as I thought she could rear. I had drowned. Wait.
Oh sh**.
So, one of the French hounds got pregnant on the way to America, and since he thought 15 puppies was just too many, he drowned 7. Because you can't possibly have room for 7 puppies on that large plantation, with all those enslaved people who did everything on that plantation to begin with, unable to escape an institution in which many companies benefited directly from, companies that received bailouts despite causing that huge crisis, companies that received...
Oh sh**.
How many puppies again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Drowned. Wait. Lafayette. That name? Well, if you remember American history, we, as a nation, owe a lot to his friend Lafayette. Like a lot. As in we most likely would have lost to the British without French aid, which has been greatly downplayed in history in my opinion. But for another day. I wasn't able to find evidence of whether or not GW even informed his friend. And quick tidbit. Lafayette had named a son, George's Washington Louis Gilbert de Lafayette, as quote a tribute of respect and love for my dear friend. Lafayette had also joined a French abolitionist group called the Society of the Friends of the Blacks, in which called for the end of the slave trade and equal right for free blacks. He even wrote to GW, who most likely had not informed him about those French hounds, to free his slaves and establish them as tenant farmers. And he also played a huge role in abolitioning slavery in France in 1794. Respect. So what celebrity dog would have taken a mere swim in the waterhole or get a one-way ticket to the bottom? Beethoven. Safe. Old Yeller. Not safe. Surprise. He was a yellow Labrador mix. Lady and the Tram. Lady would have been left a widow. But why? Well, here's why. Not that this will make you feel better. Any puppy not meeting GW's breeding standards were not kept. Andrew Hager, historian in residence of the Presidential Pet Museum, explained that quote puppies that were not true were often drowned on his orders. While not uncommon for the time, this is obviously disturbing to modern sensibilities. I'm sorry. But you know what also was not uncommon during that time? Not killing your dog. And fighting against slavery. Lafayette is my BAE until further notice. There you have it. No hearsay. Concrete facts. Physical proof. Written by our first president. I think that concludes my first video. I'm sure this tidbit will get people who gave him a pass on. You know. The slavery. And will have them rethinking his legacy. Next time on Wait.
What?
Oh sh**.
I am not less concerned to find that I am, forever, sustaining loss in my stock of sheep particularly. I not only approve of your killing those dogs which have been the occasion of the late loss, and of thinning the plantations of others, but give it as a positive order, that after saying what dog or dogs shall remain, if any Negro presumes under any pretence whatsoever, to preserve, or bring one into the family, that he shall be severely punished, and the dog hanged. Holy You know, I thought he would have kept it consistent. With the drowning. But hanged. But why? Oh right. The racism. It is not for any good purpose Negroes raise, or keep dogs, but to aid them in their night robberies, for it is astonished to see the command under which their dogs are. I would no more allow the overseers than I would the Negroes, to keep dogs 1, or at most 2 on a plantation is enough. So it would go that Washington felt threatened by his slaves' dogs, who were well trained and suspected of killing his sheep. And thus, they were hanged. Oh, and he wasn't alone. 5-cent man, Thomas Jefferson. To secure wool enough, the Negroes' dogs must all be killed. Do not spare a single one. If you keep a couple yourself, it will be enough for the whole land. Let us be carried into execution, immediately. I participate in all your hostility to dogs, and would readily join in any plan for exterminating the whole race. I consider them as the most afflicting of all the follies for which men tax themselves. Jesus of Nazareth and all that is holy. All right, Jefferson. You win. The myth. The legend. A constant presence wherever we go. In our wallets. In our weight. What the And you would think that Peter, of all organizations, would have caused quite a tiffy about this. Their headquarters is in Norfolk, Virginia, and they are quite proud of their city's heritage, even giving a shout out to famous colonial Americans like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. God, they are so clueless. But don't you worry. They have their eyes on the real enemy. Pokemon. Seriously. What the So there you go. My first video. And boy, what a dreary subject. Don't forget to subscribe. Drown me with likes. Why am I like this? Let me know which other subject I should explore. So before you wave that dollar bill face at Fido, you sick f***ing sadist, or begin reaching out to your local and state politicians to discuss that proposed Trump 1776 commission, the one that will, quote, support patriotic education, and ask if they can include this in their curriculum. Remember WAP. Hashtag Washington abused pets. And to Peter, hashtag WAP. Hashtag we adore Pokemon. Yes, we all love animals, but get your priorities in order, do your research, maybe update your website, and leave Ash and Pikachu alone.